My Portugal D7 visa was just approved. So join me on my journey of moving to Portugal solo over 50. Hi, it's Gwen here and welcome to CORR Travel. I really appreciate you joining me here on my amazing, stressful, exciting process of moving to Portugal over 50. First, a little bit about me. I'm from the US and I'm in my mid-50s, and I've moved several times, although I consider myself from California. I've lived in 9 states. I've moved many times, lots of them alone, so I'm very familiar with the moving process. However, this is my first time moving to another country. We all know that moving can be a stressful process, but moving to another country definitely incurs a lot more. I chose not to go the golden visa route, even though it's on its way out. It's not for me, and the D8 visa also was not for me, so I chose the D7, which just got approved last week. I'm very excited. Even though I made the decision to move abroad 2.5 years ago, I really put the wheels in motion the beginning of this year in February. So I feel like I'm about halfway there now. There's definitely a lot more to go, but having the residency visa approved is a big step in the right direction. I'm also self-employed. You are here on my CORR Travel channel, where I advocate and try to help people broaden their horizons and reinvent their lives through solo travel over 50 by sharing my solo travel adventures and experience and information. But for this series, I'm taking a more personal route and sharing you my solo move to Portugal over 50. I wanted to start this series by giving you the top reasons why I chose Portugal. Maybe they might help inspire you to do the same if you're in the process of trying to decide if Portugal is right for you. So that said, let's just go ahead and dive on into the reasons why I chose to move to Portugal. Out of 163 countries, the Global Peace Index gave Portugal a ranking of number 7 as safest places to live in 2023. The US got 131st. So also, as previously traveled Portugal, I've never felt unsafe as a solo female traveler. So obviously choosing a safe place to live is top on the list. That goes with number 2 is I am familiar with Portugal, which really helps obviously in deciding a country to move to. I have been to Portugal on more than one occasion. Obviously, I've traveled extensively throughout Portugal, and I've always had positive experiences, with the people and everywhere I've gone, and I just always liked coming back to Portugal. Speaking of, though, if you want some really good travel guides for cities in Portugal, check out the travel guides I have for you. If you're wanting to do a scoping trip to Portugal, they may help you plan. Number 3, the Portuguese. The people here are so wonderful. They're very friendly, they're warm, they're inviting. It's just every time I interact with locals, it's always been a very rewarding and it's been a great experience. They're just so welcoming. They have a lovely sense of humor, and they really do try to help you out however they can. That's always the feeling that I get from them. So it's very nice to know that I'm moving to a country where I feel surrounded by people like this. The quality of life as well. Yes, and it's an adjustment to get used to the bureaucracy and how things operate, but still, I felt like living in the US, things have just become faster, more stressful. Don't even get me started on the political climate. But I really wanted to improve my quality of life. I feel like I want to just slow some things down. I want to be able to know that I can take care of myself, and healthcare and quality of food, and obviously the people and the safety. And so really overall, just the quality of life here is I think going to be a huge benefit and was a big, obviously, decision factor as well. In fact, just the other day I was talking with a local and he had mentioned that he was briefly living in the United States in the San Diego area. And he said, I could never live in the US permanently. I asked him why, and he said, just too much stress. And all I could do was just, nod and chuckle and go, yeah, I feel ya. So actually, I would love it if you're feeling the same way, have been feeling the same way about the US. Post your comments below, because I would just love to see what people have to say. Personally, I also like the fact that Portugal is closer to the east coast of the US than other countries in Europe. It's where my mom lives and where half my family lives as well. So there's less time difference, and being able to visit will just make it a lot easier. So that was one of the decision factors for me as well. And the climate, I love the climate here. It's very similar to California. Like I said, I consider myself from California. I was born there. I lived there for many, many years in the San Francisco Bay Area and in the West Los Angeles area. And also the other side of my family lives there as well. But other Californian expats will say the same thing. They really enjoy the weather, and I love the weather in California. Unfortunately, of all the places that I would love to live in the US, that would be it, but it's become so crazy expensive that unfortunately that's just not a route I think is best for me. So being able to be in a climate with outdoor activities that I love to do, and familiarity, just all of that, I feel really at home in this environment, in this in my surroundings here in Portugal. So that was definitely a biggie. And of course, the cost of living. It is lower than California, much lower, in fact. And it's actually, the cost of living in Portugal is considerably lower than a lot of areas in the US as well. Yes, prices have increased in Portugal. They have their own issues with rising prices and housing. And the larger cities, Lisbon, Porto, the Algarve area where I am right now, these are more expensive than other areas in Portugal to live. But when you visit Portugal, you'll see that there's a lot of variety of cities and environments to choose from. And so in general, food, housing, rent, healthcare, everything combined, it is much less expensive to live. And so, of course, finances do account for where you want to move to. And if you are familiar with my CORR travel site, you'll notice that I do have an affinity for Europe. I love Europe. I've been coming back and forth and revisiting the same countries over and over again, Portugal included. But I really do love the opportunity of living here, that it opens up more possibilities of traveling within the EU. So once I have my residency, I'll be able to come and go without having to deal with the 90-day tourist visa that we as Americans can only work with in visiting. So yeah, having that flexibility and mobility within the EU is definitely a positive. And then, of course, hopefully I'll be able to get some more travel videos out to you all, so, stay tuned. And like other countries in Europe, getting around Portugal is very easy without a car. They have, the trains, the buses, and then also depending on where you decide to live, there's the walkability factor. And of course, biking, and I am choosing not to have a car. I don't want a car right now. So I'm gonna try and live with that. Obviously less expenses as well. It's also more eco-friendly. Plus, even when I lived in the US, like when I lived in West LA and other areas, my car would sit there 6 days a week. I would take public transportation or walk, or working from home like I do now. I have the flexibility. So it's like I really don't even need a car. So being able to live in an area where I can rely on walkability, maybe an Uber if I need it, or of course the trains, buses, public transportation, all that combined. I just love the fact that I can start anew here without even having to have a car. And Portugal, thankfully, has a smooth immigration process for Americans, which is not the same for other European countries. Like I said, I applied for the D7, and that's what I just got approved last week. So throughout this process, once my residency permit is approved, hope, then the residency is good for 2 years. So that'll give me time to get acclimated and see, if I want to stay longer. And if I do, I would have the option to renew for 3 years. And after 5 years, you can apply for dual citizenship. There are things that go along with that, but you have the ability after 5 years to put in your applications. And last but not least, I am of Portuguese descent. As you can see in my family photos here, that's my great-grandparents in the middle, and my grandpa is in the top left. My great-grandfather was born in Cape Verde Islands, and which was then under control of Portugal. And my great-grandmother was born in Azores. So, in fact, actually, if my grandpa had received a Portuguese passport during his lifetime, as I understand it, I probably could have gotten into Portugal under the hereditary factor, and that path would have been a lot easier. And that's how I understand it. But unfortunately, he didn't, so I went the D7 route. I wonder what he'd think, though, of me moving to Portugal. So these are just some of the reasons why I chose to move to Portugal, and that's not all of them, but they are the biggies. And if you speak with other expats or people in the process of moving to Portugal, I'm sure they'll share some of these same reasons as well. So is Portugal a perfect place? No, no place is. I have done my research, so I'm going into this, I feel, with my eyes wide open. And of course, you're going to be able to benefit from that, because I'm going to be sharing in upcoming videos what I've learned, what I've been through, and what I'm getting ready to go through, because it's not over. I do have to get the residency permit approved, so there's going to be a lot more going on, and I can hopefully help you benefit if you are trying to move to Portugal or on the fence trying to decide, and especially if you're solo in your 50s or older, this information definitely will help. Because let's admit it, moving can be scary anyway. Moving to another country can be a little scarier. Have I questioned myself? Am I doing the right thing? Yeah, more than once. But also, hey, and I'm in my 50s, and that adds a little bit more scariness to it. And then I'm alone, so I'm doing this all by myself. So pile that on top. Yeah, I've definitely questioned if I'm doing the right thing. But I know from every day that goes by and more that I learn, and when I'm here, it feels right. So I just know I'm doing the right thing, and it's all going to pay off in the long run. So I hope you'll join me on learning what it takes to move to Portugal as an American, what you should consider, the process, and sharing of my insights. And I hope to be rolling out these videos weekly for you. That's it for now. I'm gonna sign off from here, my apartment in the Algarve. Next up for me, just so you know, is I have to fly back to the United States next week. I've been hanging out here for a while to enjoy my apartment and meet people and get started and getting acclimated and living here. But I need to go back so I can have my visa affixed in my passport and go through the storage unit again. That's been a process. Oh my goodness, I have so much to share. And wrap up some appointments, see some family, of course, for the holidays, and then pack up the last of the stuff that I'm bringing with me. And I will be here back in the Algarve before New Year's Eve, just in time to start a new year in my new home, in my new country. And then, of course, sit around and wait for the residency process and all that. Again, boy, that is coming. So again, stay tuned, come back, subscribe. I really think you're gonna find this upcoming information very informative. So until then, ciao.